Hello, thanks for tuning in. This is Stuart, the Unrepentant Atheist. This is a call from the 24th of March 2024. It's the line. Matt Dillahunty and the Magic Skeptic are on. I've already done a call from this show. I'm doing another one because there were quite a few good calls. So Ron's calling in. He wanted to talk about the Kalam cosmological argument, the merits of it, how he believes that it proves that the universe did have a cause. He's a theist, and he did not really address the issue of how he's going to get from a cause to a god. So it would have to be a two-stage process. He's really talking about why he believes that the cosmological argument is valid and sound. So they spent quite a long time on that. They didn't really get around to discussing how this cause would be a thinking agent. And then something sort of happened which triggered Matt a little. Let's just have a look and see how the discussion actually concluded, because I was wondering when I was listening to this, well, he's a theist. Why is he calling in to talk about the universe having a cause? Because he spent so much time on the cosmological argument. The real challenge is going to be, once you've proven that the premises are sound, is how do you get from a cause to a thinking agent to a god? And unfortunately, that didn't really happen, but something did sort of pertain to that towards the end. And that's where we're going to join the call. Let's have a listen.
Go ahead, Ron.
No, I think you maybe just misunderstood. Where I was going with that was I was just turning the question back. Okay, how do we study those things? Okay,
now, how do we study those things? Matt said we can't go back beyond the Planck time, that, outside of space-time, if there was a cause, it's a big question. If there was a cause, then how could this cause exist outside of space-time when existence is temporal? So if there's no time in which a cause could have existed, then it just literally couldn't have existed. Because the start of all existence, as far as we know, is from the moment after the Big Bang, or the moment of the Big Bang. So it's quite a problem. Now, the way that Ron phrases it, he says, how do we study these things? Now, things also exist. And if they exist, it must mean that they came into existence after the Big Bang. But what he really means is, how do we study these things which exist outside of the Planck, outside of space-time? That doesn't really make any sense. And he's also assuming that these things are there to be studied. That, as Matt has said and others have said many times, we have not yet at the moment got the ability to go outside of space-time to analyze anything. That kind of assumes that there's something there to study. There may not be anything there. There may not be. It may well be that all that we could ever study is that which is within space-time and indeed the universe. So it's getting into quite a tricky area, but I don't like the way that Ron phrased it there. How do we study these things? Well, there may be nothing there to study. It may well be a futile exercise. You're assuming that there's something there for us to study, and a lot of theists do this. How can we look outside of space-time? We can't do that. Therefore, we need faith, or we need intuition, or we need other tools. Frankly, and all of the tools which they cite are all unreliable. They're all unscientific. So, okay, let's listen to some more.
But let me make a couple other points too. First of all, I didn't mention God. You did. Okay, I'm just talking about a cause at this point. As far as ruling out,
I mean, this is 30 minutes after he came on with the cosmological argument. He's a theist, and he's coming on to spend all this time to argue that the cosmological argument is valid and sound, and that it proves that there was a cause. And he spent all that time doing that. And when Matt happened to mention God, because after all, that's where surely the conversation has got to be going if he's a theist. Otherwise, why call the line just to try and prove that the universe had a cause, unless you're also going to show why it must be a thinking agent and indeed a God, and then reprimand Matt for saying, well, you mentioned God, I didn't. I've had this before with Christians as well. I've had Christians, Muslims sometimes talking about a cause and this, that, and the other. And when I happen to mention a God, they say, you're straw manning me. I never mentioned God. You're arguing dishonestly. That's right. The conversation's over. You don't know how to argue. So what's the point if you're a theist in spending all your time arguing that there's a cause without tying it into the bigger argument, the unifying argument of why this cause is also a God? Okay, so I don't think this is going to trigger Matt a bit. Let's have a listen.
An infinite past. We've already agreed that time began with expansion.
Okay, I'm going to mute you.
Did you not call in as a theist?
Right, Ron. It says here you're a theist and that you found the Kalam compelling. Are you suggesting, because if we've made a terrible mistake in that you don't think that the Kalam supports God belief, I'll apologize. But if in fact you are a God believer, and our reasonable inference from hosting a show where people call in to defend their God belief was to reach that conclusion, then I think you owe us an apology for suggesting that we were overreaching. Are you in fact a God believer?
Well, yeah, absolutely. I'm just saying I haven't got that far.
Absolutely. So why the fuck did you just do what you did?
Okay, obviously he's triggered. Now, if I was there, and I don't do call-in shows because I don't, I would never go on a call-in show. I don't think I'd be good at it. But what I would say there is, okay, we've spent half an hour on the Kalam cosmological argument. You've said that you're a God believer. What is your reason for believing in the existence of God? Let's start again and let's go from there. Unfortunately, that's not what happened.
Why?
You brought up God, not me. I mean, that's a bit of a...
God when you said you were a theist. You brought up God obliquely without actually saying God when you brought up the Kalam. Neither of us inferred anything remotely incorrect, and we've been nothing but engaging and respectful on this. And then now you want to say, well, maybe you guys misunderstood. After all, you brought up God. I didn't. Do you really think that snarky stuff is going to go over well? Let's try this again. Let's back up 30. Shut up. Let's back up 30 seconds to before you said that. Ignore it. Don't say that again because we were right. And I'm still want to know what methodology do we have to gather information from outside of space-time? What method do we have? I don't know of any.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah, me neither. Yeah. And again, the phrasing of this, what methodology do we have to study outside of space-time? I know that it's kind of implying that there is something outside of space-time. And that's the only thing that I don't like about the way that he puts it. I know there's probably no other way that it can actually be put, but I think that when an atheist says this, implicit in this statement is that there may well be nothing outside of space-time there to study. But when a theist makes this statement, it's that there is something there, but we can't get at it. There's a difference in the two positions.
Sure.
Cool. If we don't have a method for gathering information from outside of space-time, how could anyone make an informed decision about outside of space-time without the information?
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that.
Okay. If nobody can make an informed decision about what exists or doesn't exist outside of space-time, does God exist outside of space-time?
Whatever the cause of the universe is, exists outside of space-time.
Yeah, you see what I mean? He believes that something exists outside of space-time. Matt's already been through this, that something can only exist if it exists in space-time. Outside of space-time necessarily, existence can't be.
How do you know the universe had a cause?
Yeah, we're right back to now you're making assertions about something outside of space-time while acknowledging you have no way to gather any information about outside of space-time. You have just acknowledged that you can't reach a reasonable, informed conclusion on that, and then you're reaching a conclusion that is evidently unreasonable and uninformed.
Yeah, well, his call has got confirmation bias written all over it, obviously, and it's the same for, I think, every Christian Muslim I've ever heard call into these shows when they talk about the Kalam cosmological argument or any arguments for the existence of God. they're starting from a position of already believing in the thing that they're trying to prove, and then they lead the evidence, what they think is evidence, where they want it to go. And this is the fatal flaw in their position, but they keep on doing it.
The two first premises, the only two that I've even said of the argument, neither one mentions God, neither one mentions anything outside of it per se. It's talking about a cause, right? That's all. And
we've already addressed.
Okay, so all right. I mean, even if we could grant that the premises are sound, and we could grant that okay, the universe had a cause, where are you going to go from there? That's the problem.
That we have now moved on to addressing the issue of something outside of space and time. We've already addressed the Kalam, both the problems with it and what it doesn't do. If you're going to just go back to the Kalam after we've already addressed that, why should we bother talking anymore about this if you've acknowledged you have no mechanism to explore whether or not there's anything outside of space-time, let alone what might be?
Well, let's talk about
Matt absolutely nailed it there, whether or not there's anything outside of space-time, and that is the big question.
The multiverse idea and these other things.
Let's not.
Are those
let's not, because you've been on for half an hour. We've addressed the Kalam. You've acknowledged that you have no mechanism for exploring anything outside of space-time, but you're comfortable reaching conclusions about it. I don't need to move on to a discussion with you about other things that none of us are experts in when you've already failed the first part. I have other callers on hold. We're not just going to jump topic to topic to topic.
And none of us believe in the multiverse, which is, again, why I went on a lengthy soliloquy just a few minutes ago where you said that I must have misunderstood you, but now you've done it for the third time, where the reason you're jumping to the multiverse, correct me if I'm wrong here, Ron, but you want to imply that Matt and I are being inconsistent. We're ruling out God because we can't investigate beyond space-time, but yet we're taking the multiverse serious.
That's absolutely correct. And I've had many, many times with Christians present this false dichotomy and say it's either a multiverse, zillions of universes, or it's a God. And they're saying to me, they're accusing me of believing in the multiverse because they know full well that a multiverse with zillions of universes out there, and one of them got the fine tuning exactly spot on, and that's why we've got life. And the only way that we can accommodate all those amazing mathematics that we're often presented with by Christians in particular is to have a multiverse. So if the odds are 1 billion to 1 against, if you've got 10 trillion universes out there, then one of them is going to nail all the conditions such that there can actually be life. And I always say to Christians, no, I don't know if there's a multiverse, and I don't know if there's a God. The time for me to accept either of those will be when there's evidence. At the moment, I don't know. But they want to saddle you with this claim that there's multiverse out there because it's almost as fantastic as a God belief. And I say almost because at least with the multiverse, it's within the natural world, whereas a God isn't. It's outside, it's in the supernatural realm. So in fact, the multiverse is still less irrational than, more reasonable than God belief. Okay, well, the call's just winding up. Let's just see how it goes down.
Despite the fact that we can't investigate beyond space-time. Is that what you're attempting to suggest, Ron?
Yeah, I think you're being inconsistent.
Yeah, well, that's not
then
the case.
You are very, very, very confused because neither of us are saying that the multiverse is the explanation. What we're saying, which you've acknowledged, is that none of us have a way of exploring outside of space-time. So I can't rule out a multiverse, and I can't rule out whatever other proposals someone might make out of there because I have no way to explore it. But what we're pointing out is that when you say that you can rule out a multiverse and rule in a God, you have no justification for doing that. We are not the ones who are asserting anything about anything outside of space and time. You're the one that's doing that. And now we're done with it for today. Thank you for the call.
How do you rule out God?
I didn't rule out God.
We didn't. We're
I
not
just
ruling out
fucking
God,
told
Ron.
you 10
Nice.
seconds ago, we don't rule out God. You don't
Okay.
listen, Ron.
Okay.
I don't believe
Thanks.
there is a God. I'm not convinced there is a God. I didn't rule one out. I don't know how many ways we can explain to you. Darrow went on a soliloquy explaining in great detail how neither of us are making an assertion about anything outside of space-time at all. And now you're asking us, how did you rule out God? I didn't. There's no reason to rule it in. You have all of your work in front of you before God is eligible to rule in. I'm sorry that you are willing to be irrational and rule things in when you have no way of gathering information or reaching an informed conclusion on it, but we're not doing it.
And at the
So
end
God
of
is
my
possible.
soliloquy, I might add, you accused me of having misunderstood your
No,
position.
sir. No,
And then-
sir.
and
Hang
then
on.
you
Hang on.
re-articulate.
Hang on. Darrow, hang on. Did you just say, so God is possible?
Isn't that what you just said?
No, it's not what I just fucking said, Ron. I did not claim that God is possible. I have no idea if God, any particular God, is possible or not. You are so desperate to paint us in a way that you can't listen and you can't think. I did not say that God is possible, did I, Ron? Ever. I said I didn't rule it out. Not ruling something out doesn't mean it's possible. Just like saying I'm not convinced that you're guilty doesn't mean I am convinced that you're innocent. Learn logic. Goodbye, Ron.
Absolutely correct that just because you don't rule something out doesn't mean that you're asserting that it's possible. And again, just recently in my comments on my channel, after a discussion with a Christian, it was put to me, so you don't rule out God. And I said, yes, correct. I don't rule out God as an explanation for existence, but that doesn't mean that I've got any good reason to believe that that is the explanation. I'm not ruling it in, but I'm not ruling it out. And it's a good way to put it, the way that Matt puts it. We need to have sufficient evidence to rule something in while not ruling something out unless it's demonstrable that it's not possible. Okay, enough straw men from Christians and theists for now. Thanks a lot for watching. Goodbye.